Hello, I'm Sally Gardner, and with me is Jemima McKenna. On behalf of Global Reconciliation, an international organisation that supports dialogues and seeks areas of common interest across differences of culture, region, religion, and gender, we are delighted to speak today with and to celebrate the work of Safiya Ibn Garba. Safiya, originally from Nigeria, now based in Jordan, is co-recipient of Global Reconciliation's Desmond Tutu Reconciliation Award 2020. Safiya has received the award for her outstanding work in the field of gender reconciliation in Africa and internationally. Safiya, it has been a privilege and a pleasure to have had this opportunity to meet you. Can you share with us an experience that has been significant in your dedicating yourself to the work that you do?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Sally, and thank you, Jemima, as well. Thank you to Global Reconciliation for this opportunity. I would say that an experience that was really significant in my life was something about my family background, actually. My mom was widowed when I was 3 years old, and she never remarried. And in that circumstance, she had the option to let go and let life break her down, but she didn't. She was strong for us, and she had daughters. And she taught us the value of hard work and discipline and, strong work ethic to be independent. And this stayed with me as I grew up. And I noticed that not everyone had the kinds of opportunities to come from a middle class family. So did not have the kind of opportunities for a good education and a sound foundation to succeed. And that was particularly for women. So as I watched more, I noticed that women were at a disadvantage, and I started to think about how we could equip women to become more successful, of course, and access more opportunities, but also to make the environment that they would have to work and live in more conducive. And to do that, we had to promote more collaborative relationships between girls and boys, women and men. And my mom's influence was extremely important in shaping what I chose to do following that. And also, the disadvantages that I was noticing, especially violence against women. So I would say that would be the key significant thing, those two things that led me to dedicate myself to the work that I do.
Safiya, your work takes place both at a grassroots level in the everyday life of communities and at the level of governments, policies, and lawmaking. Can you share with us a project or achievement about which you feel particularly proud?
Yes, sure. Well, it's a hard question because there are quite a few stories about that. And for me, it's not about the size of it. It's all about the impact that you're making, even if it's in one life. We are currently implementing in Kaduna, Nigeria, a project called Our Safe Spaces. This is supported by the United Nations Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women. And this project is providing psychosocial support, peer support, even economic support in the form of cooperatives to women who've been affected by violence, but doing so in collaboration with community heads, with councils, and with the men in their lives. There's also an additional response to the pandemic, obviously, and the increased levels of violence that came about due to the restrictions. So we're approaching this in multiple ways. We're doing top, bottom up, everything to do like advocacy to policymakers. We're having events, we're having trainings and seminars to help address resilience and also anger management, so more coping mechanisms to reduce issues of violence against women. We are providing care packages and promoting conversations within communities, so trying to get more people involved. We do not want to get just women and talk and sit with them. We want everyone involved in the conversation. And we're also providing helplines and referral services. So this program has been running since 2019. We'll run all the way to 2022. And that's one I'm particularly excited about. Yeah.
Safiya, you mentioned, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, and you, like millions of other men and women, have been living through this pandemic. Can you share with us something of the way your work has been challenged and how you have needed to adapt during this time?
Where do I start, right? I think everyone has a very long list of things. There's so many disruptions as a result of the novel pandemic. But a big part of what I do in my work is trainings, capacity building, competency development, and things like that. And these would normally be conducted face to face. It's much more interactive. You get a better sense of what's happening in the room and so on. So these were naturally hampered by the restrictions from the pandemic. And yeah, we had to adapt. Lots of adaptations needed to happen to ensure that participants at least benefit to some extent from activities. So that meant adapting to virtual means of delivery of training sessions, activities sometimes. There was also a need to train staff to conduct sessions. So it's one thing, you don't just stand in front of a screen or sit in front of a screen and just deliver something. There are methods, there are tools, there's facilitation involved. So training staff on conducting those sessions, but also the use of virtual tools and collaborative tools online, because again, you want to keep things collaborative as you would want to do on site. There was also trying to figure out how to reach those who had limited access to equipment, smartphones, computers, and connectivity. So, connectivity is of two types. There's proper connectivity and there's just connectivity. And in such cases, we had to switch to other platforms like social chat platforms, have direct phone calls if necessary, if we're carrying out surveys and things. So, all of these restrictions we had to get creative about what we were doing and use other means, like low technology means or high technology, to engage as alternatives.
Thanks, Safiya. In light of the many years during which you've worked tirelessly on gender reconciliation issues, can you briefly share a development or developments that have made you optimistic about the future?
Sure. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now. So, I have, even as an individual, gone through this process myself as a woman, but also kind of looking at the trends when it comes to gender relations, gender parity. I would like to refer to the Global Gender Gap Report, the 2020 report by the World Economic Forum. And it states that in parallel to improving representation of women among political leaders, because representation is one of the key things about empowerment and development and progress for any identity group. They've said that the number of women in senior roles within the economic participation and opportunity dimension has increased. So globally, 36% of senior private sector managers and public sector officials are women. So that is a 2% increase from 2019. I would like to refer to a great example that's current now. The new director of the World Trade Organization, first-time Black woman, African, Nigerian woman to head the organization. So that's great progress when you hear things about that. But the gap remains. To close this aspect, it's quite substantial. And only a handful of countries are actually approaching parity. This is one of the key findings of that report, and it does not necessarily reflect the global South situation in some aspect or in some sectors, but it shows signs of good things to come despite the effect of the pandemic, which in itself has taken us back from a lot of progress in this area. We want this to trickle down all the way to the grassroots and have representation, economic participation, and so many other things. So, I mean, I think in a summary, I would say it shows that we're doing something right, but we need to do more, and across every sector and every level. And that is basically a call to action for you and I and everyone else. So, the horizon looks a bit bright, but it's going to take a lot more to get there.
Thank you so much, Safiya. It's been an honour to be able to recognise your work on the occasion of International Women's Day 2021. For those who'd like to find out more about Safiya and her work, we'll be providing links to our website globalreconciliation.org, where you can learn more. Thank you.